RSAC 2027, your US market readiness briefing. We've actually brought together a line of speakers who were involved in our RSAC 2026 this year. And we are all here to share what is it what does it take us to be able to prepare and ground ourselves for the workshop. For RSAC 2027. Yeah. So right now, my name's Raj. I'm from SGTech. I'm your MC, and we will begin with our program manager Daniel sharing a few quick words about the workshop and our upcoming business mission. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Raj. Good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel from TIG Center, helping to manage the Cyber Growth Program. So our Executive Director, Willis, is unable to join this morning due to a prior commitment, and he has asked me to share a few opening remarks. So first and foremost, I want to thank SGTech and our speakers, Teresa, Zaisao, Ron, for making this session possible. The cyber growth team, right, had the opportunity and the honor to really support our delegation at RSAC 2026. And our experience was that RSAC offers tremendous exposure, but it was also really, really crowded and competitive, right? So thousands of companies just competing for the attention of the same buyers, partners, investors, media. So what we notice is that simply turning out with a booth and a good product really is not enough, right? So our companies did report encouraging outcomes. We also observed that, however, more meaningful opportunities also came not only from booth traffic alone, right? So from companies who had clear objectives, could communicate their value proposition quickly, approach the right people, and follow up consistently, right? So side events and trusted introductions were also valuable. And in a market like the US, where relationships and credibility matter, right, the right connections can help open a door and help companies to build trust and move the conversation forward. And so this is why, we're really organizing today's briefing to help founders and business leaders think more carefully about how RSAC fits into their wider US market strategy. Right. So we also welcome everyone, right, to use the Q&A session later after the speakers to really ask practical questions to our panel. And really, again, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy morning to join us today. Yeah. So Raj, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay. We'll just take our group photo quickly. Let me just go back to our previous slide. So just give me a minute. Okay, so just give me a minute. Let me just set this up. Okay, I see all of you on my panel to my right. Okay, I'm just going to take the photos now. So everyone, please switch on your cameras and we'll have our brightest smiles. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So second panel. And our third panel. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Let's begin our session proper.
Thank you.
Yeah, please do keep your audios muted. If you've just joined, thank you. So to formally open today's workshop, it is my pleasure to welcome Ms. Teresa Cho, Managing Director of Integrated Strategy in Team Lewis, who will be sharing much more about PR and marketing in the US, what you need to know ahead of RSAC. It's such a pleasure for us to have Teresa with us here because she was the one who, with her team, worked with us closely in RSAC 2026 to bring about some of those PR successes. Let Teresa speak more on that. Teresa, please.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am dialing in from San Diego, US, but I am not an American. I am a fellow Singaporean, but somehow found my way and got plucked away into this land far away. I've been living in San Diego for the past 2.5 years, and obviously Singapore is always still home for me. And when our team got the chance to work for SGTech and TIG, it just brings me so much joy. And I had just such a blast being on ground, on site with all the 8 cybersecurity companies that attended this year. And we made lots of memories together, had lots and lots of meetings, but also generated really good results. So I'm really happy to just come here today and share with you a little bit more. Hopefully, my hope is that when you walk away, you start thinking a little bit more about what your PR and marketing strategy ought to be. Obviously, this is just such an early snapshot, but hopefully it can help. So I am going to share. Oh, I'm going to share my screen. Uh, and hopefully this will work well. All right. Hope you can all see this. So I'm going to dive right into it on how the companies this year built visibility at RSAC. So, today's agenda, I am covering the challenge starting point, covering a little bit of the US media landscape, cover the strategy that we proposed for the companies here for SG Tech for TIG, the results and impact of the program, and some key takeaways and learnings for everyone. So, to start off, one thing I want to emphasize to everyone, RSAC participation alone does not create your visibility. So just attending is great. I am so happy that you are attending, but there's more work to be done. And in particular, for the companies that showed up this year, many of them were first or second timers, and many had limited to no existing USPR or digital footprint. You're coming to RSAC, you're spending all that money because you want to show up and start to make your mark in the US. You want to let it be known that you are ready to start entering into the US market. So to do so, you need to make a splash online here. So the biggest challenge that we had to deal with was how do we help these 8 companies cut through the highly competitive news cycle? Because it's going to be hard, right? So to start off, before we get into the strategy, let's understand a little bit about the US media. So, this is a very simplified way of understanding how they are structured. So, there is the national business media, which we all know Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Business Insider, Fortune, Forbes, all of those are the big titles, right? That we all know and it's the ones that we all keep hearing about. And think of that the equivalent of Straits Times and CNA in Singapore. Then we have the national trade media. And there's a distinction here between national versus niche, right? National trade media, meaning these are trade media that are covering the entire nation generally. They think about the industry news and trade meaning it's like industry, right? They think about the trade slash industry news, but thinking about it on a national scale. And then we have the niche trade media. So these are the ones that go very into, let's say, about data center, about quantum, about post quantum cryptography, right? There's like all of these, and it gets more niche. And then we obviously have the regional media. It's important to know the national business media, national trade media, regional media. These people care about what that first letter says. The first word of the string is national and regional. So regional media, they really only care about what impact you have on California, on San Francisco, on Austin, on Texas. So you have to, when you're trying to pitch to them, you have to show that direct translation. You can't just say, oh, I'm coming into the US. They're like, okay, but how are you impacting California? And when you think about the national business media or the national trade media, again, how are you impacting the US? Now, niche trade media is where you can come in and there's a bit more grace because you are able to come in to say, look, I have a story to tell about quantum. I have a story to tell about behavioral cybersecurity. And that level of niche would allow you to step in to give that perspective. Obviously, they still want a little bit of that US impact, but all in all, it's about what that niche trait is about. So why this is all important? You think, okay, I obviously want to go for the big guys. I want to go for the national business media. Um, that is, thank you for muting. That is obviously going to be a tough sell because you can't just go in and expect that Wall Street Journal wants to cover you, but there is a way up. There is a reason why there is this line in between all the segments. National trade media reads niche trade media. National business media reads national trade media and niche trade media. All of them, all of the journalists read each other to get some news. It's not that the national business media doesn't care about what the other media is writing. So that's the first thing I want to point out. Trade media drives influence, right? And your cybersecurity buyers are probably reading all these titles. Secondly, people will search for you after they meet you, or sometimes even before they meet you. So you want to build a credible proof of your business online and it appearing, again, you think about it in the Singapore context. If you have an article on Straits Times, you have an article on The Edge, you suddenly have that much more credibility compared to if you had nothing and you just had your website, right? So that's really the role of PR and having either your PR person or a PR agency like my company. Our role is to build that media relations for you to ensure that you show up there. And then finally, if you want to show up, it's not just showing up. You need to make sure that you actually have a news hook or a point of view. So I know I spent a little bit on this slide. So what was the strategy we went forward for this year? We combined earned credibility with paid certainty. And what that looked like was there was a whole planning phase where well, we have Strong Keep and we have Agile Mark, Ron and Saishao who are here on the call. They remember how we had to arrange calls with us in the US and in Singapore. So very early for them, very late for me. Lots of calls to just get down to a good PR messaging, right? You have your business messaging, but then what is the story you want to tell to the media? Once we have that, we developed a whole series of PR angles. We wrote a lot of content pieces, opinion articles, and for some of them, we helped out with press announcements, aka press releases. And then we obviously also worked hard in terms of identifying all the right media outlets that would be interested on each of one of these 8 companies. Then comes the earned PR segment, right? Earned PR meaning we didn't pay extra money. We basically took all the stories that we farmed with the companies and then we pitched it out. So in total, we distributed 3 press releases on behalf of 3 companies who had announcements to share. And then we also secured byline opportunities, or in other words, opinion articles. With some of the companies, we were able to develop like a long form article and we were able to pitch them. And we did all of these before RSA. So key point there because that meant that the companies had to confirm their announcement maybe 1 month before RSA so that our team can pitch it out 2-3 weeks before RSA. So that's like the earned piece that we did. And then in terms of paid, why we bring in paid is because, again, these companies do not have any presence. We want to make sure that they have a guaranteed hit. And how we did it was to make sure that we were identifying media companies that would be suitable for our cybersecurity companies to have their articles in and that would make sense and match them. So we make sure that there's at least one editorial per company so that they have a placement. And finally, on the day of the RSA, on the week of RSA, and also leading up to it, we also make sure to develop some social media posts for the companies, just within the scope, just so that, for some of the founders or CEOs, or even for the company itself, they can repurpose some of the posts that we develop for their coverage and put it up on their page. And the result is we've had over 1,100 pieces of coverage, of which it's 27 unique pieces. So to explain a little bit about that is we engaged a newswire distribution. So that allowed us to make sure that one single press release could hit so many places at once, which have a lot of syndications. But at the same time, a lot of the unique pieces that we place, aka we pitched the press release or we pitched the bylines, the long form article I mentioned earlier, those also had syndications because the publication was prominent enough to have syndications. So ultimately, all these titles that you see were the list of titles that quite a number of the 8 cybersecurity companies got to see their coverage on, with a potential reach about 306 million. And the biggest story, and obviously these are a snapshot of a couple of pieces of their coverage. On the left, you see Protos Labs and Scantist, who have their press release featured there. And then on the right, you see a mishmash of paid editorial placements and earned placements. And it's just a scattering of all the different 8 companies. But one of the things that I am most proud of, which is the point I mentioned at the start, building your digital visibility. What it has done is that when you search for some of these companies in the US, our media coverage is showing up on Google searches. And you see for Scantist, for Protos Labs, for PQC, for AgileMark, I mean, obviously it's just a snapshot of the 8. Even for StrongKeep, you see Gaurev's name featured right on Dark Reading. And that's the part that we're proud of. And this is, I took these screenshots around a week after RSA. 6 months on, it still shows up. And this, I just took it last Friday. And you still see these ones come up. And, that's the part that I'm really proud of. Ron, AgileMark, you can see yourself there. 6 months on, your article is still up there. And that's the part that I'm proud of because it's important. In this day and age, when you are searching your company, especially in the US, you want to show that level of prominence. And the other level to it, all of these digital visibility. Yes, it's about searching up and showing up on Google, but it's also about searching up on AI, right? As we know, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude. And this is the part that I was just so proud of. I did this last Friday. I asked ChatGPT, can you name me cybersecurity startups from Singapore that are trying to emerge in the US? 7 out of the 8 of the companies that were at RSA, and it's 7 out of the 8 because one of the company didn't have as much announcements, but for 7 of the 8, look at all of that and look at how RSAC was mentioned alongside all of them. AgileMark, StrongKeep, CyberSierra, and calling out these 2. These are all from ChatGPT. I didn't tell them to do this. Scantist. I think this is one that you should consider. Scantist launched PieStrike. Again, this was an announcement that we put out, and they quoted Business Wire. And then for CyberSierra, they quoted the LinkedIn posts. And I mean, there's a whole thing I could go into about AI LLMs, and the biggest one I want to tell you is some of the most cited sources for AI these days. Obviously, media outlets, they do cite it, but LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn, Reddit, and YouTube, these are another 3 areas that they tend to cite. So again, this is just proof clear as day that if someone random in the US decides to search you up, these 7 companies, say this year is going to be part of this list. And I think that is really, really pretty cool. And obviously that extends even into social media itself, where the earned and paid PR coverage, like I mentioned earlier, you see all of these. And Ron, you're there again, and Gaurev on behalf of StrongKeep as well. All of them posted on their LinkedIn, which are all potential places now that AI can pick up from. And it was great to see from everyone. So ultimately, PR's impact on this program, I mean, I want to remind, PR's impact is not about driving you leads. I can't do that. But what PR does is upper marketing funnel. So that means building your awareness, credibility, and digital visibility. So awareness, like I mentioned, within that short runway, we created measurable US awareness. Secondly, credibility. We strengthen that credibility through third-party validation. So through cybersecurity titles that we either earned and we pitched and placed, or we paid for and placed with, for example, Dark Reading, SC Media, etc. So that really gives US prospects, partners, and journalists proof points when they're researching these companies, and they can see these points. And finally, the point that I was harping about is that digital visibility in being able to make sure that you show up. So that's just a little snapshot of the kind of work that we have been doing with them. I'm down to my final 2 slides, and that point is to, well, I mean, you're probably wondering, okay, what should I do now as I'm planning for RSAC? Firstly, again, the point that a booth alone does not build visibility. So make sure you are figuring out your pitch, your elevated pitch, and it's the kind of work that SGTech obviously does with you. What is the US problem you're trying to solve? What is that story you want to tell in the US to the media? If a media pulls you aside and say, tell me about you, you want to be able to explain that. 2, media needs a story, not an event listing. Again, they like, great that you're at RSAC, great that you're there. It's the first step, because then there's a chance that they might discover you, but you need to do more. And that means coming up with a good announcement that can help. And again, you can take a look at this year's announcements from Scantis, Protos Labs, and PQC. They had 3 really, really solid announcements that got picked up. 3, the point about people searching you. Yes, I'm telling you that PR will get searched up on, but I'm also telling you, you need to make sure you build your own presence. So that means having a website that is searchable, and making sure that it's at least functioning well and that Google doesn't penalize you because the website isn't working well. Consider adding a newsroom, consider adding blog content, consider building up your social presence. All of these will help to build up that overall digital presence. And finally, strong results take time to prepare. So please start early. I mean, that's part of why SGTech and TIG is doing it right now, so that you can think early. Don't only do it in February, that's too late. Start way, way, way earlier. And my final point here is, again, a point that I've been trying to make. RSAC gets you noticed, but a credible, searchable presence is what keeps the conversation going. So I know I kind of sped through that a little bit, and I probably have like 5 minutes for questions, because I think I'm allotted 20 minutes. So let me check the chat, or if anyone wants to go off mute, feel free to. Okay, I'm seeing some questions here, so let me answer. Share the links of the PR posts. Sure, Jay. There is quite a lot. I don't know if you want 1,100 links. Maybe let me know which
No,
type
I
of
don't need.
links.
Yeah, I saw them, so it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's good. One example of a unique story. So, let me share my slides again to show you. And then what will a buyer from US search this prompt? Why will a buyer? Well, I don't know for a fact. It would really come down into the US buyer itself and the habits that they go into. I was just thinking, if let's say a US buyer is thinking about finding new places they want to diversify in, maybe this is one prompt, but hey, I might not know. They could also put there, what are the hot and upcoming companies at RSAC this year, which I didn't do a search for, and you can try and see what comes up. So it's kind of also on you to decide or get to know what you think the buyers would typically think about, and then try to make sure you structure your story backwards so that it can also match to that. And then to the question about a unique coverage, so it would be things like these, where it's a whole article that is written specifically just for them. So you see, for example, this one here for Protos Lab, Tech Strong Editorial was the one who wrote this. And that's different than if, let's say, they just copied and paste what the Business Wire is saying. That if they copied and paste an article and they copied and paste the exact same thing onto another article, that means it's a syndications. But then for these ones here, there's an editorial team that developed an article based on our press release. So then that would be an example. Let me see. For the paid media mentioned, will that be included in the package? Yes. So that is part of the package. When TIG and SGTech sets us out and and when they hire the agency, we would identify the media for you. And then we would tell you the media that we are suggesting for you. We give you 2 to 3 options sometimes, and we explain why we think those media is a good match for you. You decide, and then we go with it. So for example, I knew that dark reading was a perfect media outlet for Strong Keep, and also because of knowing Gaurav's background, and he himself said about how much he loves dark reading. So I knew and wanted to make it a point to make sure that he appears on dark reading for his paid advertorial, and we did. And that's like the kind of partnership that we would have with you. So yes, it would be part of it. For a small startup with limited team through an agency, well, this is the benefit of going with SGTech and TIG because they are the ones hiring a PR agency. So you kind of can piggyback on that to work with someone like us. When we worked with the companies earlier this year, we consulted them. They told us their plans, they told us their announcements, and we said, okay, please do a press release. Okay, maybe no press release for you. So we were consulting them and giving them the best advice that we can. With the scope that we have. Obviously, we don't have an endless amount of scope where we can help everything to every depth, but yeah, the team is very good about making sure everyone gets good help. So, but specific for you, Elia, if I'm pronouncing that right, if you wanted to start on your own without having to depend on us, I would say go back to working out your brand messaging. What is the brand messaging and what is your USP and what are you offering in the US? And I'm sure my later speakers will also talk to that about why you need to build that up. And when you have that messaging and you know that's the messaging that can go to US buyers, can go to US media, that's the one that you then take to then think about, okay, maybe I'll put a blog about it. Maybe I'll post on LinkedIn about it. And you start from there. It's always about starting small and starting with your own content before you think about spreading out too much. So that's probably my advice for you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, Teresa, for your insightful sharing. And I think that also gives our companies a lot to think about. And I mean, like what you just said, thinking of their brand messaging, making sure their USP is very clear, and for them to also think about how they want to position themselves on a PR side before they even go to RSAC proper. So thank you. Thank you very much for that, Teresa. For our next session, we'll move on to communications and positioning. From communications and positioning to the experience of actually being on the ground in RSAC. And there is tremendous value in hearing directly from someone who has gone directly through the experience, and they'll be sharing about what worked, what they learned, and what companies should be thinking about before they arrive. And that is where we'll be getting Tsai Shao, partner and COO of Strong Keep Cybersecurity, to share, and he'll be speaking more about lessons from the ground, what founders should know before going to RSAC 2027. Tsai Shao, please.
Laisha, by the way, it's still a black screen.
He's keeping us in suspense.
And we can't hear you if you're speaking.
So for our audience here, Tsai Shao is also from Strong Keep Cybersecurity. We were hearing Teresa speak earlier about Gaurav, also from Strong Keep Cybersecurity. They were one of our companies that participated in RSAC 2026 alongside Agile Mark. So we have Ron here as well, who is our next speaker after Tsai Shao, just to set some context. Oh, okay. Over to you, Tsai Shao.
Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Give me a moment. My computer's a bit old, so it's hanging a bit. All right, I'm trying to shift to the screen. Okay, let me get started and then let me try to run ahead of my computer. So we went to RSA last year with the SGTech and TIG delegation. This was actually our first RSA as a company. Okay, got it. Okay. So before I start, let me give you a sense of who we are. And I think the key is to understand that we are unique. We are at a particular time in our life cycle of a company. We had a different objective. So as I go through our learnings and insights, I'll encourage you to think about your own journey and where you think you can maximize your value from RSA. So who are we? We are StrongKeep, right? We serve SMB cyber. And when I say SMB cyber, some of you might think of, 200 and below companies in US or in Europe, but we serve 5 to 10 man companies in Singapore. So you can tell that the profile of our customers is quite different from going to something like US where you tend to serve larger companies. And the thing is, RSA doesn't attract companies that have 5 to 10 people. It attracts CISOs from companies that are 1,000 to 2,000 people at least. At the point of our journey in March, we were just 11 months old. In fact, we just launched the product in November. So we had our initial customers, and we had and the base was mainly in Singapore. We have one US customer, but that's a small company as well. So who went? We actually weren't sure whether or not RSA would be valuable for us as a company. And I think there was a question just now, as a small company, how can I make sure that RSA deliver value? And the answer is post RSA, I can tell you that we have, and I'll go through it later. But you have to be deliberate about it. So it was just me and my co-founder Gaurav who went to RSA. We have a small team of 7 people. So actually the resources, I mean, in terms of, I'll show you how much money we spent on RSA later, but in terms of time, we had to set aside a lot of our time to prepare for RSA and then actually go to RSA and then follow up after RSA. So the time commitment that we had is actually not small. And that's why we try to make full use of it. So before I zoom into what we learned, this is a slide that captures what RSA is. And I was an investor in Temasek in cybersecurity before I left to join StrongKeep. The story of that is, I mean, probably better over beer than this session. But RSA was something that I've gone to, as part of my life in Temasek. So I was there for 4 years as an investor. I skipped the one during COVID, but I went to every other event as an investor. And in 2026, when I went as an operator, I found it very different. The numbers here are based on official RSA numbers, but actually there's a whole host of things that go around RSA that this doesn't capture. So if you tell me that in 2019, when I went there, there's only 42,000 people, it felt more like 60 to 70,000. The streets are packed, all the hotels are booked up, and you can't get a restaurant reservation anywhere because everybody's just holding events around town. When we thought about going to RSA, we were quite cognizant that, I said that the RSA attendees are not our customers, but actually what we wanted to do is also get in touch with partners and investors. So when I was an investor in Temasek, RSA is the event to go to meet companies. So what I'll do in Temasek is I'll go to a RSA, then any company that I'm interested in, I'll email them and say, hey, can we meet up during RSA? And it's either the VC that puts us in touch or it's directly to the company itself. And generally, they will be there. But the action doesn't happen at Moscone Center itself. It happens outside in the suites, in the nice suites, at Four Seasons around the conference area. Usually a company who's looking for funding will book out the suite early on, and then they just host investors going through the whole day there. So what we were cognizant about when we went to RSA as StrongKeep, one is I want to meet partners who can distribute StrongKeep, and two, we want to meet investors who could potentially be future investors of Temasek, right? Not Temasek, StrongKeep. And for us as a company, we were early, but as an ex-investor, I know that you have to start a relationship somewhere, and going to pitch at RSA will help us hone our messaging. So that was a broad overview of what RSA is. Next, this is the practical bit. This is number one is where Moscone Center is. It's at downtown San Francisco. Around there, it's all the hotels that you can book out for the event. When I was an investor, I could book out a hotel at $500 USD a night, or even $1,000 USD a night. So that's the kind of rates to expect if you book late. If you want to get something cheaper, sometimes you can go through large cybersecurity companies. They book out hotels, a large number of hotel rooms early, and then they sell it to their distributors or they sell it to their customers. So that's what we did sometimes in Temasek. We can get things for like 300 USD a night, which is quite cheap for RSA period. But essentially, you want to, as an investor, I wanted to stay around the conference area so that I can walk to the conference area easily to meet meetings. There is an area that you should avoid, which is the Tenderloin. It's this area that is slightly off, but quite close to the conference center. One of the RSAs that I attended in Temasek, we had no choice but to book something that's at the edge of Tenderloin. And that year was particularly bad. There were homeless people around the streets, and it was very dangerous to go to at night. So just be aware that there's this area called Tenderloin, and when you search for accommodations, try to avoid that. The last point I'll make is that as a startup, I didn't have the same money that Temasek had. So we stayed far away from the center of San Francisco, far away from Moscone Center. This is what it looked like when we booked the Airbnb. It was a 13-minute drive down to Moscone Center. And we thought, hey, that's not bad. But what we didn't realize was whenever I Googled this, it was in the middle of the night in San Francisco. And the 13 minutes was reflecting the traffic in the middle of the night. What the actual experience was we had a cheap Airbnb. We stayed there. We spent about 35 to 45 minutes getting into downtown San Francisco, just because the highway was okay, but when you get closer, it's just everybody's trying to get in at that point in time. So it's 35 to 45 minutes journey. So what we had to do was we had to stay out the entire day and then come back at night after dinner, which was okay for us, but it's just something for you to remember. Our priority was making sure that we spend at the least amount of money possible in order to make sure that the returns that we get on it are worthwhile. But you might be in a different situation. So that's the logistics. This is the money slide. All this is researched independently by my agent, so take it with a pinch of salt. Essentially, we paid about 15,000 total for the whole week for the conference itself through SGTech and CyberTIG, accommodations and flight. When I flew in Temasek, I flew business class. When I flew in Strongkeep, I flew economy, which was fine. Surprisingly, it was fine. 16-hour flight direct SIA, $1,500 each ticket, which is fine. So if you are doing that, then know that it's okay. But what I wanted to highlight on this slide is the amount of stuff that SGTech CSA provides around the conference and the amount of subsidies you get was one of the key reasons why we were willing to go, because they provided a high subsidy. I knew from previous experiences that it's extremely expensive to exhibit there. So the cost of what you're getting and what you're paying for is actually the value they get is far beyond what we paid. One thing to add is Team Lewis as well. So if you were to engage Team Lewis yourself, you're going to pay multiple times more than the cost of the entire conference alone. I mean, there's 15K here. So this was something that we were very cognizant going in, and that's the reason why we were able to sort of make the decision to go, even as we knew that our customers wasn't there, even as we knew that we are still early as a company. Okay, so this slide captures sort of the key learnings that we got and the results and what we found most valuable in RSA. One is, I think for the first time, we were demonstrating our product to an international audience. And what we wanted to see is whether they had the same reactions, what kind of questions did they have, whether, is it something that they would compare us with others, or is it something that say, yes, it's actually cheap and it makes sense as a bundle. So this one thing, market research, right? On the floor itself, you just meet just a flow of customers or potential people they talk to, and then you can hone your pitch. The second point is it's actually quite valuable for competitor research. So we knew going in that there are some competitors, well, maybe not our competitor for a whole bundle, but there are point solutions that could compete with us. And we were deliberate in making sure that we go there and talk to them. And we figure out what their price is and how they're selling it and how they're pitching it. So this was quite illuminating for us because we found out the pricing that we're competing against, something that cannot be done on online research. The third point was what I said earlier, Team Lewis. Make sure you use Team Lewis if you go. It's not only the media, the articles that they get us. It's also Teresa runs a very competent team, and throughout the entire trip, there was a lot of opportunity for interactions. If you take them out for drinks, they might share more. Well, that's up to you. But they are very good at what they do. And for us, it was very Teresa just came in. It was very useful to sharpen our pitch. And not only they have experience selling things and placing things in US, so they understand what the market is like, understand where we have to go, understand what kind of messaging works. So if you go there, I think that's one of the key things that you should do. Use them, talk to them, and make sure that you use it to hone your messaging. The fourth thing that was useful to us is RSA is in US, but it attracts everybody from around the world. So we talk to people from Europe, talk to people from Latin America, we talk to some people from Asia. And that allows us, it allows us to test our messaging against different countries and to see whether, does our messaging resonate? And that's research for us because in the future, we're going to expand out Singapore. And through that, you can test, does this market have something that I can sell into? Or if you're talking to partners on the ground, then you can find partners who know the market and can tell you whether your solution works or not. Particularly valuable is this Dutch, CSA tries to organize trade delegations that come to visit, a Singapore national booth. And that was quite valuable because it brings together a collection of people from Netherlands that was useful to us. So there was a government guy from the equivalent of Enterprise Singapore, or is it EDB, right? They're trying to get investments into Netherlands. So they were able to tell us, if you go to Netherlands, this is what kind of subsidies you get, what kind of support I can give you, what kind of in-kind support as well, who can I connect you with? And then they connected us to a distributor in Netherlands as well, which was a very useful conversation for us because then we understand what pressures, small companies are in Netherlands to buy something like us. So it allowed us a cheap way, rather than flying to Netherlands, Latin America, Brazil, a cheap way to talk to these people and see what their reaction was to our product. The last point is, we did scan a lot of badges. So key point is you get a link scanner from SGTech in order to scan people's badges when you talk to them. And it's something that's it's a common practice in RSA. So every time you go to a booth, somebody will say, "Can I scan your badge?" And what it does is it collects the leads for you to follow up later. Because when you scan the badge, then the lead will be collected based on RSA's database, and you get the emails, you get the name of the guy there. You don't have to ask them for it, you don't record it down. But what is useful, and what we found really useful, is that you have to record the context of what your conversation was with them at the point. Because you're meeting a lot of people, if you record it later, you probably will lose the context, and then you lose you won't remember properly what you said you follow up or whether or not they were worthwhile following up on. So be deliberate about scanning and making sure you follow and track the leads. And that's a tool that you should use quite well. I think Raj will tell you more of this when as you get closer to the date. So those were the key things that we found from RSA. I will just give you a picture of what our week was like. And the larger point I want to convey to you is that RSA is where everybody congregates. The conference floor itself is one arena where you can get insights, but larger than that is the activities and events around RSA. And we were quite deliberate in doing that. We tried to tag team, so Gaurav would man the floor while I'll go for an event, or I'll do it, or vice versa. And we will make sure that, we go to the events that we wanted to go to. And we had, we were very deliberate in, once we decided to go to RSA, leveraging all the context to make sure that we meet the correct people, attend the right events at RSA. And we actually spent a lot of time doing that. So you can see that, some of the events here are networking events. Some of the events here are dinners or even one-to-one meetings. They happen around the event, and it's only because everybody's in town at that period. So a few things. One is try to do it try and lock it down before you go to RSA. It's hard. We started a few months before to email people to ask them whether they had time to meet. But typically what happens is that everybody is juggling their schedules, and only closer to RSA closed up. So probably most of the meetings were only anchored a few weeks before RSA. And even before we flew, there were 7 of these events that were not confirmed, but they were only confirmed like on Sunday night itself. So do that, right? Be deliberate in who you meet and try to get as many meetings as possible. Second point is on the last day itself, Thursday, RSA ends about the middle of the day. We were quite deliberate in making sure that after that, we arranged some meetings with people on Friday. So Palo Alto is where we went, and we were leveraging all the context to go and meet people who have founded things in America, who have done things in Singapore, and then try to get them to give us advice. And we found that engaging the community of Singaporeans in US outside RSA was tremendously insightful, because they have different insights. We were able to see how they thought about startups. We were able to see how they thought about fundraising. And then some of them actually leaned forward. We were meeting them for the first time. Lean forward to say that, okay, let me advise you. Let me be your advisor, right? And today we're still talking to one of them who is advising us on partnerships. Two logistical things on the week itself. One is on Sunday, collect a pass before you go in on Monday, because Monday there will be a lot of people that will be collecting passes. You want to get ahead of that. On Thursday, what you want to do is to walk around the floor, because everybody's packing up and they have a lot of excess swag to give out. So that's the day you should go and walk around and make sure that you collect as much stuff as possible. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, people tend to be, they want to reserve the swag for customers because you will have an exhibitor pass. But on Thursday, it's a lot freer. They just want to they don't want to bring the stuff home. So they just want to get rid of it. So you can walk around and do that on Thursday itself. Okay, so last 5 things, I think I have covered most of these already. So one is hone your pitch, covered it already. 2, talk to anybody you can in San Francisco. The big insight for us is that San Francisco is just a different environment from Singapore. Everybody's building. Talking to people helps give you a different perspective and on how people are building and how aggressive they are there. So Friday was our best day in doing that. I'll encourage you to do that as well. 3, don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of people in San Francisco, Singaporeans, will actually lean forward and connect you if you want, or advise you. 4, I told you already, and 5, not obvious. We tried to record every conversation using AI, using an AI note taker. And after that, it was much easier then to put everything and then follow up with the email after that. So that reduces our lead time to get back to them. So my last slide. So make full use of it. Again, I'll say that we were there at a unique point in time in our company, and we were there for a unique purpose. I would encourage you to think about your purpose and then just go out to make sure that you get most value out of the experience. Thank you. Sorry, I can't see the questions. If anybody has questions, happy to take them now.
So we have one question from Honshu Sito, who was asking if RSA is suitable for companies in the US looking for partners or agency to sell their products in Singapore. I think Saisha, would you like to answer that, or I can give a response as well?
Yeah, I can give a quick one, then you can add on. Going to RSA is going to cost you time and money. So if you want to find companies that distribute in Singapore, I think it's easier to do it in Singapore itself. I would say though that distributors in Singapore also go to RSA. So if you're having trouble to connect to them in Singapore, it's worthwhile thinking about how you can do it. And SGTech and CSA are the ones that help broker that. So you can work with them to specify who you want to talk to and how you get in touch with them. Sorry, Raj?
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you for that, Saisha. I think that covers it quite clearly. Though, I mean, Khonshu, just for clarity, yeah, I mean, our angle is for our Singapore companies to find partners and distributors in the US to expand there. But good question. Thank you. So thank you once again, Saisha. I think that was really interesting. I think you covered really the on-ground perspectives that our founders, our companies here would really like to know. So things like, for example, which areas to avoid in San Francisco, and really how to maximize your participation and the kind of opportunities that are available. Thank you for sharing what some of these events look like. So we've heard from Tsai Shao about being on the ground. How, as a founder, do you maximize your opportunity? How do you really get into the nick of things? How do you ensure that you are really creating value for yourself as an organization? And now we will actually move into seeing how we can use RSAC as part of our wider strategy and bring it into translating the conversations, visibility, and opportunities generated into sustained business development and market traction in the United States. And to help us unpack all of this, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ron Wee, Managing Partner at Agile Mark, who will be speaking on winning in the US, building a go-to-market strategy for cybersecurity startups. Ron, over to you, please.
Okay, let me just share my screen over here. Can everybody see the screen? Okay, let me
Looks
just
great.
close. Yeah. So we have some stuff over here. Let me just close off the shadow IT stuff. Okay. Basically, RSA conference. I've been doing security for 26 years, right? So I started at 2000. So basically, RSA conference is not new to me. It's new to me as a bidder, because I always go there as a patron or a person, just go there to what we say source for information and what are the new stuff. So RSA, so there's a few important security conferences in US. So we are going back on some of the old school. Now definitely every other week there's one conference. So RSA conference is a display of new product and new companies, right? So every company will usually do their launch of a new features there. And every year there's a theme, right? So we went for next gen security, the AI security, etc., user behavior, all these things. So definitely during this trip there was a lot of AI, right? Whether it's real AI or fake AI, right? I'm not going to call out some companies which I look at them. Some of them are my friends, right? I look at them as that they are backup companies, but they're now also doing AI security. So everybody's calling themselves AI security, which Teresa that time in team was also telling us that we have a different flavor of that. So have a good entry point, right? And what you want to talk about there. So just a little bit brief on my company, right? Because I didn't put in this slide until I saw Zai Shao doing. So basically, we are doing the kind of a screen watermarking where users try to steal information via the laptop. So basically, you have symbols around the laptop screen that we can trace back to where did the photo leak out from, right? So actually, the kind of threats that we found is kind of different. It's actually a visual last mile that everybody know. But again, there's a lot of threats that you might think your language is okay. But what definitely helped us is with the help from the PR team and cyber, definitely with Raj, their team, the cyber team, they actually help us to reshape our own messaging. So before we reach there, there's videos, right? So we also discover some of our peers are very good at doing videos, and some of us are just still practicing. But it's definitely a good exercise to actually go through all those, right? So without further ado, right? So some of the preparation, I think Jaisal covered a lot on those where to stay, etc. Right? So flights on hotel definitely book earlier. The moment you got approved by CyberSG on you are actually selected, the hotel is already very expensive. The flights you will definitely need to book early. Right, find any other routes. There's a lot of routes to get into San Francisco. So don't if you only want SQ, then you're only left with one route. Which I remember the econ class was around 3,000 plus to 4,000, and the business class was 14,000. Right. So the event itself, with the help of SGTech, definitely we are sponsored a lot. But the logistic is expensive. So you need to know how many people you are bringing in, right? So for your swag, you really need to think through what swag you are bringing there. So I think SGTech, they brought in some biscuit, etc. That went through custom without any issues. I actually spent quite a bit of time thinking what to bring to the RSA conference, because you need to clear US custom. Don't just think that whatever free gift like those electronics or things you bring in will clear the customer. If you need to, you better ship it early, right, to get enough lead time to clear the customer, else things might get stuck. Right. And the demo hardware, etc., get all this logistic correct. How many machines you want to put there, whether you're going to put a video. So at first we are quite ambitious. We want to do a lot of things. After looking at the booth size we have and only single monitor, we decided to actually just put in some video. Get the video ready to just show your product, because you won't have a chance to get the people you to come in to watch your demo. So sometimes they are just attracted with a video. So this is something which I learned from the RSA conference, which I didn't do this year, because I saw my fellow peers have the QR code for people to follow your webpage, right? So this is something which we didn't know. So after I see my next booth, they're doing that, I came back at all other events, we started to put in this. Right? So learn how to get your QR code out, right? So it's ready when people need it. So all this preparation, the logistics, you need to really lock it down. So we also got into a hotel that's like the worst hotel in Asia is also better than that hotel. It's walking distance to the Moscone Center, but it's one of the most horrible hotel I ever stayed. And it's like 400 US a night. So it is what it is. So this year around, I will know to call some friends to actually book earlier than that. Okay. So to go into RSA conference, there's something which all the founders or people who are joining, you need to be aware. So from all the companies that go in, right, I can't say for everyone, but most of them are looking for investor. For me, it's a bit different. We are bootstrap company, and we are not technically looking for money. We are looking for partners and awareness. I have an objective which I want to achieve before I go there. First and foremost, definitely is to, when you're in RSA conference, your presence or your branding in Singapore goes up a lot. If you don't put in LinkedIn, then it's your own fault, right? So after we joined there, the kind of biggest feedback we got back is actually from our ASEAN customer, who say, oh, you went to RSA conference, so now you're like a big boy, etc. That is still a mental effect, right? Second for me is that I'm testing the US market. Is this problem that we have, will it even create a ripple, right? So RSA conference is a low risk way to find out. So for the amount of money you spend, right, you get your answer quickly. Doing USA or not doing USA is always definitely everybody's target is to go there for software firm or security firm, right? It's definitely a bigger market than Asia, right? But the reality is that you can't just think that 1 million will bring you there, because if you want to set up a real workforce over there, you need to have a SE, you need to have sales engineer, you need to have support, you need to have a salesperson, and it takes time. So technically, we are there looking for partners. Okay. Second thing, because I go to RSA conference all these years, right? I know there's one unique thing about RSA conference. All the Singapore security leaders will be there, right? All the senior leaders, those who can make decisions will be there. If you cannot meet any of the Singapore security leaders in Singapore, right? That event is one shot, you meet everybody, right? Don't even think about the events in Singapore because the events in Singapore, right? All the senior leaders, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't go. They send their guys to go there. But to go US, you must be some budget approved for the senior leaders to be there. So one shot, you can see most of them, right? And there's a lot of networking event which are actually organized, and also go to some other events. If you have no Singaporean friends, try to get to know some of the DC. So my biggest kind of win over there is actually all the Singapore leaders some of them whom I know already, but it's a good catch up. So now they know that what we are doing, right? And I think global, right? The world comes to the RSA conference. That means my ASEAN, all my partners, the different countries from Africa, from Latin, from anywhere you can think about. Everybody go there to look for sourcing. So you look at the message. RSA conference is not a US sales event hosted in San Fran. It's a global sourcing event that happens to be in San Fran. So many years ago in our previous security job, we have a joke. You want to find a new job, you go to RSA conference to see who needs representation in Singapore. Right? You just go there and source. Same for them. They're also sourcing for partners. There's or some of the reseller and distributor. What in one of the objective which I set for myself is that we understand that no B2B sales will happen on the exhibition floor, right? So we are setting our expectation for awareness, not PO to come to us, because even our sales cycle in Asia, right, is a slightly like half a year, so we are not expecting things to be closed. So this part if if your management send you, do at least let them have this expectation, right? You might get leads, but if you have no presence there, it might be quite difficult. Then second part is your crew. So I always envy Zai Shao's booth. They have two person who are all very good at talking, etc. They are right beside us. So for the RSA conference side. So for me, is that my guys is very quiet. So I have to, but luckily I got a friend to come in and help solicit people to the booth because we are facing in the bad spot and we are facing the wrong direction. Sean Kip and me, right, two of us are facing like the wall of another company, and I think we are being filtered to the filtered. So it's like the traffic is pretty bad. So we need to pull people from the what we call the corner mainstream to come in. So I need to have one guy, right? So luckily for me, I got a friend who actually keep pulling people in to at least take a look at our booth, right? So don't hope for the best. You can sit there, right? It's like you can sit there for people to come and take your swag. That's about it. So in the relevant attendees, you need to look at the what you call that the lanyard and all those tag, but pretty fast because you need to run the what I call a bullshit filter, BS filter, because some visitors are there to collect freebies. There's people with trolley of freebies and swags all going around, right? So, but I also say don't be stingy with the freebies. If they come and ask for it, just give it to them. If the swag is there to just give it out generously, right? Don't because one of my guys like always tell, should we give this guy? Should we not give? It's okay to just give. I mean, don't create a scene in a way, right? But there's also visitor there, right? I got a visitor asking me what's my revenue, etc., prompting to be like an investor. Some of these we are just not comfortable in sharing because first and foremost, our objective there is not to look for investor. Our objective there is to look for partners, right? And awareness. So once you have your objective set, it will be much easier to actually measure your own success, right? So the BS filter is quite important for us. And definitely we know that some customer, I mean, we do meet some of the very big banks, CISO there, right? But we also understand that they are just there for awareness. So we got around like 68 leads. We sent out all the emails. Only the partners replied, the distributors replied. But it's still better for us because it's the first time we understand how we can support Middle East, how we can support LATAM. So there's a lot of strong lessons you will learn. And basically, there's impression of Singaporean firm in US also. So there will be I have some of the attendees who come and ask, are we associated with China? Those kind of impression, and it is what it is. So do have a few sentence that's practiced among your own crew, right? To know how to quickly explain what your company is, where you came from, etc. So importantly is to engage Team Louis and SGTech because they do have the PR training that can help reshape our message, which I think is extremely important before we go there. So basically the kind of work the SGTech and team on this PR is not an afterthought. So what Tim Lewis and Jai Shao and Raj, they all mentioned, right? This is very important. My company, we are not a big team, right? So just to have a real brief, we are not a big team. We don't have people doing marketing, PR, etc. So this becomes extremely important for us. And they did the videos and all these things, which is making your message what we call human readable. Although all the attendees are security people, right? They might not understand what exactly you are solving. And to make matter worse, you are in the exhibition where there are like a few hundred security vendors. Everybody use the same term. You just miss a wrong word, the impression of your product will totally swing to another way. It's like the moment I say it's a visual DLP, the three character came out DLP. Immediately people thought I'm in the lack of us, the force point and trellis, all those. So whichever terms you come out, you need to think carefully, right? So the PR training does matter, and definitely work with your crew. Make sure everybody know how to pitch the same message, right? So it's actually a real distinct skill, unless you are very well trained in that. So use your PR training that SGTech they all provide and the workshop to get exhibit ready and have all your materials handy, right? So what is the win? One of the important things that we do have we managed to get one Middle East distributor and a Latin distributor, right? So after the Middle East one, we are moving with them for a while already, right? So they also put us into some of the events in Middle East, etc., right? And truth to be told, we have not closed the deal yet, but things are at least moving, right? So we are only talking about 5 months after we came back because they also need to go to other exhibition, etc. Then there's competitive intelligence. We realized one of our competitor who used to be a smaller who just came in, but they managed to get some investment one and they are doing a lot of deep marketing, right? So they are in the middle of the Moscone Center, north and south. They are in the middle. Right. So like what I mentioned, the visibility with the SG leader, also of some of the distributor, because some of my Singapore distributor, they didn't know that we are actually in the business. So granted, everything is relying on just a few person to signal to the rest. So we also got some distributor who are willing to distribute our product. So everything is in negotiation, it's just readiness. So why do I say a readiness in signal? Everybody say they want to do US. So is your team ready to support US? That's the other question. So why I concentrate on the Middle East and not the Latin distributor? It's the time zone. So every time the Latin want to do any training, etc., it's between me and my guys. So who want to wake up in the middle of the night to train them? Right? So these are the realistic thing that you want to do US. Do you have enough kind of support power? Because you don't want to go into the market and create a lousy impression, and then it will be more difficult to go back in again, right? So what happened is that we understand the Latin 24 kind of 12 hours real difference, right? It's very tough. So we told them that we might actually drop them a bit, but we concentrate on the Middle East, which is a time zone more manageable. Definitely you can have all your AI agents to do support, etc., right? So what we have actually done with all this is that you also make us consider what are the products that we want to let them distribute. So we have a few kind of product, but the ones that is very stable, we allow them to distribute, all in thinking of readiness, right? So if you're more gung-ho, by all means, go and do actually push everything out, but make sure you have your support ready and don't, I mean, whether you are ready to support the kind of market if we are going into it. So, but this year, coming year, we are more or less, I'm going to attend it again, but not as a exhibitor, but maybe by myself to see what's going on, because the AI game has changed definitely. Everybody's thing. Oh, and definitely, if you look at Teresa share this article, right? The SC Media, the article was actually quite well. So there's definitely brought in a few more kind of contact for us. So that's my last slide, and yeah, I think I'm good in timing. If there's any questions, sir.
Well, thank you for that excellent segue into our Q&A session, Ron. Wonderful. But yes, for our attendees here, would you have any questions? Maybe not just for Ron, but for all of our speakers. Maybe here I can begin sharing my screen.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Ron. Yes. So the rest of our attendees, do you have any questions? Let's see as well. Yep. Thank you, Lorraine and Brendan, for your comments. Yes, definitely. Booking flights and hotel early is a must for RSAC, which will actually be something that we'll cover in our next slide. But maybe we'll just quickly take any questions. When will the selection process start for RSAC 2027? Excellent question, Lorraine. That brings us to our next slide then. So since our questions are coming about RSAC, so for our attendees here, we strongly encourage you to register your interest for our upcoming cybersecurity business mission to RSAC 2027. That is happening 5 to 8 April next year. But our registration closes in 31st August 2026. So I strongly encourage all of you to please take out your phones if you are viewing this on your laptop and scan the QR code and register your interest if your company is available and willing to join the business mission. So we've already been continuing to deliver successes through our various companies in RSAC 2025 and 2026. I want you to be the company that succeeds in 2027. Right? So here we will actually do a Singapore Pavilion showcase as well. So it's limited to 8 companies. Right now, we've already received some interest. We want more interest to come in. And some of the things that you can look to doing is also, being part of our networking night, where we connect with not only other Singaporeans in the San Francisco area, but really key channel partners, individuals, institutions that can help amplify your impact in the US market as well. Yes. Oh, okay. Your screen seems okay. Not sure why. Yeah, I think you just need to rejoin the call. So just exit and then join back again. I think should be okay. Lorraine wise, yes. Lorraine, please follow up with me. We have already received the interest from ECQ. Your application, I just shared with Jega as well. Your application is currently being evaluated by the CyberSG TIG Collaboration Center. And thank you for submitting your application early as well. We deeply appreciate it. Start booking hotel retreat. Okay. Estimated cost. Is this course sponsored by SGTech? Okay, so no, the cost, I wouldn't say it's sponsored. We are heavily subsidized by CyberSG TIG Collaboration Center. But once you scan the QR code here, you will actually go to our registration form where the information on the costs and what you can look to doing in the business mission are all, the information is all neatly laid out. So please check it out as well. Setting up meetings with people, RSAC. Okay. So we have a question on setting up meetings with people during RSAC. Maybe any of the speakers, you want to take that question in the chat box?
Yeah, maybe I can touch on it briefly. I mean, given where Gaurav and I came from, I would say it's a bit easier because we had some networks and connections with people in the US already. But what I can say is that there's a whole network of Singaporeans in US that are willing to connect. So we had our most the people that we connected with outside our network came through two means. One is a friend in US or friends in US who knew people in US. And the other one was government agencies like Enterprise Singapore and even IMDA, I think, who connected us with people in US, Singaporeans in US. And through that, we were able to get meetings with some of the people that we met in Palo Alto, even also on the floor itself. It is a challenge. It is not easy if you're starting from scratch, but really leverage on your network to do that, and you have to do it early.
Wonderful. So we've received a question from Dane, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Maybe to learn more, it's better for you to join our business mission. Yes. Rather than us sharing so much information here, I strongly encourage you to sign up with us and come with us as we collectively succeed together as one Singapore delegation. Yeah. Okay. With that as well, so everyone, I strongly encourage all of you to join and follow our SGTech as well as CyberSG TIG Collaboration Center's social media accounts as well. So here is our Facebook and LinkedIn pages. We also have our website, sgtech.org.sg, where we publish our latest news, industry research, and things that we are doing for our tech community here in Singapore. Right, and next page is of course our CyberSG TIG Collaboration Center LinkedIn page as well. Please do follow both pages accordingly to stay updated about our latest activities, events, and wonderful business missions coming up like this. Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again for taking out your time to join us. We see that there's no other questions coming in. So thank you once again. Thank you, Theresa, for joining us all the way from San Diego. Thank you to our wonderful speakers, Tsai Shao and Ron, for taking out your time to share with us. With that, my name is Raj, signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.